for folks who don't know, the Free State Project is a movement of voluntary human action where we are trying to concentrate libertarians in the state of New Hampshire.
I think we've done more in the last decade than every other libertarian movement combined has accomplished in the last 5 decades.
Are my friends and my neighbors who are willing to stand against tyranny, make their voices heard, and have a goddamn impact.
You have a problem with too many people are afraid to say what they believe in, let alone actually do something about it. If you're afraid to stand outside the TSA line and piss off 97% of people who are waiting to just take the arm builder up their ass in 5 seconds, then you're probably not ever going to make the change.
Free State Project, again, it's 1% of the Free State movement.
I am a friend of the Free State Project.
And would you encourage people to check it out?
Absolutely. Check it out. Find out. If you like it, join and continue the effort.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, libertarians and anarchists alike, thank you for tuning in to another installment of the Free State Project's PocChat, where you get to hear all about the ways you can live free or die in the free state of New Hampshire. This show is all about what we're doing and what's going on and how free staters are working to advance liberty and human freedom in New Hampshire, whether by getting involved in politics, engaging in agorism, building businesses, or simply moving to New Hampshire to be part of a growing community of like-minded people. But first and foremost, let's welcome back our hosts. Me, I'm Justin O'Donnell, former Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate, former member of the Libertarian Party's National Committee, and host of the O'Donnell for Liberty podcast. As always, joining me are author and activist Carla Garrick, perennial candidate for state Senate in New Hampshire, as well as president emeritus and board member of the Free State Project, full-speed activist Bill Barger, New Hampshire native who found his way to the Liberty movement and dove headfirst into volunteering to help the Free Staters get stuff done. And finally, Twitter antagonist Jeremy Kaufman, CEO of Library, who also serves on the board of directors of the Free State Project with Carla.
That's hero, but I accept it. I also spent the last 2 minutes scrambling to find my microphone. Do I sound okay?
You sound fine.
Okay. My children they're in the chord phase of their development. And they love chords. And I cannot find the cord to my microphone. I spent several minutes looking, so I don't know what I can do.
Usually it's my cat that's messing with the microphone on my end. Yeah. But all right, so last night the New Hampshire Democrats decided they were going to host a webinar to warn people about all the awful things that libertarians were doing in New Hampshire and how the evil Free State Project was taking over the state. And I don't know if you guys caught much of it. I caught the whole thing, and I got to say, there wasn't much they said that I actually disagreed with. They were pretty on the ball. It was like a 2-hour advertisement for why libertarians could move to New Hampshire. The only thing that came off to me is just not really right. And it's something I think we want to address while we have 2 board members of the Free State Project here, is one of their first big insults. I'm just going to bring it up and play it for you guys here. This is Caitlin from the New Hampshire Democrats going on about why Free Staters are bad.
But also part of it too is the folks doing this have really, really deep pockets. They're well funded. They're coming from national sources for national reasons to move a national agenda here in our state, here in our own communities.
I so love that's the one that you played, because that's my goal. They think we have way more money than we do, because they can't appreciate the fact that there's so many people here who just care about achieving liberty and pour their time and energy into it. No one on this show is getting paid to be here.
No. I'm independently wealthy. I'm a member of the ultra rich.
Oh yeah, you're a 0.5%. Is that right? Yeah, yep. We are not well funded. We would like to change that. So anyone who's watching this who would like to make someone's head explode, feel free to send in donations. Actually, I want to start with a genuine thing. I did not watch the show. I have no idea how horrible it is or isn't. I personally don't think that Xandra, I wasn't sure if she was involved as an honest broker, and I could certainly read the email to prove that. But oh no, someone's upset that your stash is gone. But I want to thank them for doing all this archivist work for the Free State Project. We haven't ever had a dedicated volunteer who really just goes and finds the data and collects it and puts it in one place. That makes it super easy for us. The only thing we have to do is fact check their work. It sounds like Justin felt like it was fairly accurate. And just genuinely thank you. They're my most ardent fans. If someone's paying attention to what I'm doing, it's them first. So, keep it up. We're going to keep using their marketing of us for our marketing, because apparently it is an awful thing to be like, yo, New Hampshire is awesome. Everyone should move here who shares our values. That's a terrible notion.
Yeah. I will say fsp.org/give if you want to donate, if you want to help us become as well-funded as they claim that we are. If you donate at least $5 a month, you can get invited into a private chat with people, with other donors and with Free State Project organizers. If you give at least $5 a month recurring, we also accept all cryptocurrency donate. Well, not all, but a bunch of different cryptocurrency donations. So you can give in a bunch of different ways. You can give completely anonymously. We had someone give us $10,000 worth of Ethereum recently. We have no idea who they are, and so it's entirely possible to donate that way. But that does make us sound more wealthy than we are. The Free State Project budget, excluding events, is under $200,000 a year. We are not spending tremendous amounts of money. What we are doing is we have an incredible amount of passionate people who care so much that they want to put their time and they want to put their energy into doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
I was going to say that just kind of really leads into more of what Caitlin ended up going on in the seminar last night. On at one point, after her talking about how rich and well-funded we were, and she started going on about how libertarians and conservatives pumped over $1.5 million into elections in 2020 as evidence of how rich and well-funded we were. And then somebody brought up that the Democrats spent $24.6 million.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
In the same election. But then she went into a slide. I'm going to bring this up if I can find it, about all of the different things that we're doing.
This is great. I watched this.
Some of the organizations that we have here moving the Libertarian Republican agenda. We have this group of folks, a very small group of folks that have moved here, and we'll dig into them slightly in a little bit, called Free State Project. We have the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, which was an entity that was created by this small group of folks once they chose New Hampshire as their state that they would be creating a libertopia in. And they operate purely at the state level, focusing on the state house. You have the House Republican Alliance. These are folks that operate as well at the state house. You have the Josiah Bartlett Center, which is a think tank, a libertarian Republican think tank. You have Americans for Prosperity. That's the sort of the group that does the phone banking, the door knocking, sending out millions of dollars of mail in our local and state elections. They're funded from national donors. You have the American Legislative Exchange Council, which is a conglomerate of corporations and other special interests that come together to draft model bills that then they hand to legislators and lawmakers to help advance their own personal causes at the state level. You have our two different kinds of taxpayer groups that you can see play out in your towns. You know, they kind of intertwine. Some I lose track of which one's which because I think they have a fight over what name is what. You have the Granite State Taxpayers, and you have the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We have this new group called Make Liberty Win, dumped over $1 million into state rep and state senate races this past time around, created by one of these folks that moved here as part of this Free State Project. And then you have Rebuild New Hampshire, which is another one of those, or Reopen New Hampshire, or whatever their name is, that are moving some of these works. So these are some of the names that folks may be familiar with, or that they've seen, or have heard about over time.
I mean, this is just ridiculous because she left off the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire. She left off Get Involved PAC. She left off Young Americans for Liberty.
Fraternal Order of the Porcupine.
Yeah, the Fraternal Order of the Porcupines. That's another huge institution. So, let's be honest. This is completely fake news because there aren't just 10 institutions fighting for libertarianism in New Hampshire. There are dozens and dozens of them. So it's ridiculous that she says it's such a small number. And this is why they're spreading such fake information.
I will say that that's a great start. It's a great start. She did give us, credit. There may be another dozen you could meet within the first 2 weeks of being here, but that's a great start of the organizations that are here.
But one of my favorite parts of watching,
if you want to get involved in the community,
during that part of the webinar, when Carlin was streaming the webinar to YouTube last night, the comments are just like, "Well, what about my group? Well, what about my group? Well, what about my group?
Yeah.
Why aren't I on the list? What the hell?" Nobody was offended that she's targeting people for actually working towards liberty. People are offended that she overlooked what we were doing.
Right.
Do you know if they know that we're watching them?
Yeah.
I'm certain someone from their organization is getting paid to listen to us every Monday night.
I hope so.
They get paid to make that video. We do not get paid to make this one.
I hope somebody in New Hampshire gets paid to watch us make this video.
You know what? Yes, me too. That would be a huge shout out for the market. But let's remind people so that we get the word out. Another one that's missing on that list is the Progressive State Progress. We would love to help you guys with solutions. So, if it's going to come to that, again, maybe we should all part ways and we sort of, what was it? Staked our flag? What am I quoting now? I feel like I read "stake your flag" today somewhere. So we're going to be here in New Hampshire, but there are other states and other places that'll be a much better fit for other people. And the other point I wanted to make, you guys have been hearing this a lot, I'm sure, as well, where people are saying, it's not about your freedom, right? And I see a lot of the progressives are sort of starting to frame something that way, right? They know somewhere deep inside, I get the notion that they realize they're in a bit of a tailspin in terms of logic. They're like, oh, my body, my choice, your body, my choice, right? So they're so confused, and so let's just part ways. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's part of the beauty of this approach, and I maybe repeat myself on this point too much, but when you are advocating for national liberty, you are a threat to these people. When you're advocating for liberty in the smallest way possible, and let's be realistic, given the framework of America, this is the smallest way possible that you can advocate for liberty is at the state level, given the framework of federalism and the way that the United States is structured. We are being the least rude that you can be about saying that we want to live this way. And the funny thing is it becomes that much less because if you say you want to take away Social Security, that's threatening to so many people. If you take away, we don't want to participate in it. Actually, if you want to participate in Social Security, I don't want to take it away from you. I just don't want to be forced into it because I'm prudent at managing my money and I don't need that. So why are you forcing me to participate in the scheme? But in other words, we're helping progressives. We're helping statists. We're helping authoritarians in 49 other states. We're getting those pesky libertarians away from you, those awful people who don't want you to be able to rule over your subjects. We're getting those awful people who disagree with you. We're taking them away. So we're allies, and so this, I have progressive friends. I came from a progressive culture. My peer group was generally progressives, where the city that I came from. And now I'm friends with these people. I say, hey, if you meet a libertarian, you don't want that guy as a neighbor. Tell him to come up to New Hampshire. His awful beliefs won't be expressed anywhere near you,
Yeah, no, to me, the point that sticks out is, and again, it's in the intro clip we made, and with something that Jeremy said when he was on Timcast, is the Free State Project is only about 1% of the Free State movement. And they're talking like we're some big monolith that's a top-down, centralized approach when everything we approach is, and they get into it about how we're trying to decentralize everything, and then came up with the list of like 10 different organizations. They're all working independently. Most of whom, like people running them, don't know who's even running the other organizations. I was in a group chat earlier today and somebody asked, like, who the heck runs that organization? I don't even know. And it's like everyone's working on their own independently in a decentralized manner to push forward.
And to be fair, I mean, just in the interest of not spreading fake news, although it does, makes us seem maybe a little less impactful, but some of those organizations are just started by Granite staters who are also libertarians. A lot of our neighbors also care about low taxes and not getting ripped off and not having to pay to send workers to Massachusetts like a train boondoggle. So there's so much liberty here in New Hampshire that is for the taking. And so I just laugh when they're like trying to pitch a path towards liberty as if it's a negative. Like I'm like, there's no way that argument comes to its logical conclusion. And they win, right? Like you can't be like, I'm anti. I say this to people on Twitter all the time when they're like, oh, well, I'm anti-Free State Project. And I'm like, well, I'm pro-liberty. So if you don't like me, what are you, like pro-slavery?
So I have friends, right, who are, progressives who live in New Hampshire. And at this point, the most that I interact with them is like on Facebook. And I've thought about deleting Facebook because it's such like a garbage platform. Like it's just it's not a pleasant experience at all. But then I do love watching their screeches as more and more people move to New Hampshire, and also as New Hampshire takes more and more unpopular libertarian stances, like the recent education stuff, because it's just amazing. And it's like, how do you live in a state with the motto live free or die, and then think you're gonna convince the general population that no, you have to be wearing a mask and have 3 shots per year if you're gonna live free. That's not. Freedom doesn't mean you can just live. Freedom means you have to comply within the rules of society. It's not live free or die. How do you? People grew up hearing that. You read it even on the statist license plates. It says live free or die.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeremy.
What? No, you go.
I was going to say to that point, it's not just us. They're complaining about libertarians winning, and this is an electoral process. It is still a democratic process. Libertarians are winning because people are voting for libertarians. All this really came off as was a screed about Democrats not having power. She was very upset that Democrats didn't have power, and she herself admitted at some point during it that she herself moved to New Hampshire. She is not a New Hampshire native, but then started complaining about all these people moving to our state.
Yeah, that is honestly, that's the one that really, really, really irks me is, Xandra does the same thing where she talks about, this invasion and uses very propagandistic and antagonistic language, right? I believe the New Hampshire Democrats called us parasites earlier today as well, and I'm like, look, this is, and actually I called New Hampshire Republicans non-human. And I was like, man, that is definitely on the top 10 list of steps of fascism, right? Where you start to dehumanize people to such a level. And they're walking a fine line because, again, they're walking down a path where they're making an argument that freedom and liberty are bad. I don't see how that ends up well for them. And they're highlighting what we're doing. I mean, I think it's a strange strategy for them to take.
Yeah, well, I mean, since they're, I don't know, I have this problem where I just always lay my cards on the table, and so since they're watching, maybe this is too helpful to them to say. But the truth is, they're in a really tough position because libertarians generally are ignored, right? And so there's this thing that's happening here where libertarians are getting more power than ever. They're having more influence than ever, and they want to resist it. But in resisting it, they need to talk about it, right? Like one of the things that the Free State Project says sometimes is we're the only libertarian movement to reach step 3 in that old thing of like, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And you could argue that to some respects we've reached step 4, but for the most part, like we're at step 3 here, right? Where they're fighting us. But libertarians know that. Like to me, as a libertarian living in Philadelphia before I came here, I was irrelevant, right? Like my only solution was to opt out. So to see a state where libertarians are being actively fought, like that's only encouraging to a libertarian, right? So it's like they can be quiet about it and it continues to happen, or they can try to fight it and they actually accelerate it in fighting it. Like there's no right move for them. They don't have the right move.
That's the beauty of where we currently find ourselves. I'm not happy about the medical totalitarianism and the corona fascism we're seeing, but it's accelerating a lot of things, and I think it's helping us. At its very heart, the entire world is having a debate about self-ownership. That is a massive, massive, massive win for our ideas, and I would say that beyond the ideas of just libertarianism, but sort of that whole notion. I guess at its peak, we're probably in ANCAP territory now, but really with this global clampdown on our bodies, people are starting to go, hold on, who does own me? Is it me? Is it the government? How much of the government owns me? Is it just my upper arm where they want to jab me? Is it my mouth when they want to silence me? And so, we shouldn't lose sight of that. So the fact that they're fighting us so actively and that they have no good move, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't, that is #winning.
A lot of it is how they're fighting us too and how they're coming against us. So Timothy on Facebook makes this comment, the progressive Kobayashi Maru. Kobayashi Maru, the Star Trek unwinnable scenario. You cannot win the scenario because in order to attack us, they're having to attack themselves in a kind of a roundabout way. Like Caitlin did go on, I'm going to add this clip where she goes on a rant about how libertarians are winning and how libertarians are doing things. And all she's talking about is how we're winning campaigns the way progressives taught us to.
Is used by folks, by libertarian Republicans, to move the needle for their next initiative. And that in the end, it's never really a compromise because, like I said, with some of what we've seen with some of these attacks on just public ed, started as homeschooling, and then it goes to what would vouchers look like? Well, let's study that. But it's always incrementally moving the needle further and further down the roads to what the true intent is, which is purely privatization and having a gig economy for our public schools and what that looks like. And so, and that's just one example. You can pick any other issue and break it down that way. So compromise is they use it tactically and strategically to get to where they want to be for their end game.
Like they're mad that we're doing what they perfected.
Yeah, no, we have, when people talk about how like people with woke opinions or woke perspectives have infiltrated institutions, like we're kind of doing the same thing here. I don't want to shout too loudly about it because we don't know attention. But like, I'll give an example. I'm not even going to say the institution, but there is a major discretionary program in the state of New Hampshire where the state has a lot of discretion in terms of how it administers this program. And it's a program that anyone in the state can apply to. And the person the Free Staters wrote the bill to change this program. The person in charge of administering the program is a Free Stater. Then everyone who applies to the program who gets to decide whether they're accepted or not, a Free Stater is making that judgment, right? And so like this ability to have these positions of power, controlled by people who understand the libertarian, what libertarianism is, what's right or wrong, what we want to be doing. And then like, we'll do the same thing. They gave us a great roadmap. Like, I'm not claiming we invented all of this stuff, but we're following it. And if you look at the way, look at the way that say the progressives have flipped an institution like the ACLU, where the ACLU used to generally be a pretty reliable organization in terms of advancing like a genuine civil rights agenda, and now is squarely advancing the progressive agenda and completely abandoned its defense of the Constitution and certain civil rights. I used to be a big fan of the ACLU, and now I think they're ludicrous. We can do the same kind of thing. We can capture institutions, and we can make sure that people who hold libertarian values are in control of them, and that's what we're seeing throughout the state.
Right, and I think maybe I'm going to be this is going to be my one horse flogging for the night. Again, if we're looking at that spectrum, though, with Maggie Thatcher used to say, "Vote left to keep what's right," and she said, and her entire philosophy was no compromise. And the reason was, she said, if you compromise with a socialist, you always get to communism. Right? I'm paraphrasing. Right. So when we're looking at the spectrum, right? So we're saying that, for them, they're incrementally moving the needle, but they're literally moving the needle towards totalitarianism and towards full authoritarianism and full ownership of the state of your body. Whereas we're trying to move the needle towards human flourishing, dignity, independence, freedom, non-slavery, the right to make the choices that you want about your life and your body and your future, right? And so I'm just like, even if we're going to stack it up and say, yes, we're learning from them, it's like, but on the one hand, we're actually moving towards something that'll make the world genuinely a better place, where it's a level playing field, as opposed to, really moving it towards something where there's going to be a small group of people making decisions for all of us. We're going to be in our pods and we're going to like it. I see there's a question.
Yep, let me bring it up. So on my DT asked, does the proximity to a liberal metro area give reason to worry that as New Hampshire prospers from libertarian policies, that it will attract those who bring their failed policies similar to Texas?
You guys mind if I answer this? So my thoughts are that there's, there's always reason to worry when you're next to a big metro area, if you think it's gonna grow and a bunch of people are gonna move there. I'm less worried about the people who were escaping from very liberal areas, and that's mainly because if they are escaping it, and we do have a persuasive and pervasive culture of libertarians here, those people are like the easiest people to sell. If they're hardcore progressives moving because Boston's big and thriving and their policies are really doing well, that's going to be one type of people that are attracted. But if you're trying to escape somewhere that has bad policies, I think that's an easier group to sell. Also, I think we have people moving to those same cities. Manchester is our biggest city here in New Hampshire, and it's smaller than most big cities in most states. So if you come to Manchester, you're like, this is your biggest city. It's like, yep, this is it. But it's like small enough we can have influence in it. Manchester, some of the biggest libertarian meetups that I've gone to, like on a Tuesday ever, are just in Manchester at the bar. 50, 60 people show up sometimes. I think next week they're showing V for Vendetta. I know it's a week late. 60 people are showing up for a Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, just screening of libertarian, basically films. So, but that's like a thing that you can have. So if more people move, and you come see Manchester, you're like, oh, this isn't Boston. This isn't like an urban hellscape like some of these big progressive cities. There's enough room for us to influence it. And there's already a lot of libertarians in the area. Also, if you come look at it, there's like, if you go down South Willow Street or get on the highway next to South Willow Street, there's like the Mall of New Hampshire. And then right next door, 2 minutes later, there's a big old dairy farm. Like it's right next door. You get out of Manchester and it's rural. It's like, so, we have enough influence here in the county and stuff too. I think it'll be fine. That's a long answer to a short question.
I think that proximity is actually helpful. Like, if you look at a state like Wyoming, which is one of the more libertarian states in the country, came in second or third when we were originally, I wasn't part of the movement at the time, voting as to what state we would move to. Like, who's moving to Wyoming? Like everything is playing out much more slowly there. Whereas in Massachusetts, there are tens of thousands of libertarians in Massachusetts still. Tens of thousands. Like let's not underestimate the number. You can go and look how many people voted for Jo Jorgensen in 2020. And then she wasn't a great candidate, in my opinion, although certainly libertarian. I'm not questioning her libertarianism. So the idea that this proximity is going to hurt us, I think it's going to help us. I think it makes it easier for you have New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, and Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and New Jersey, all of which are terrible. And if you add up the amount of libertarians who live in those areas, we can win. We don't need to get out of the Northeast to win, right? And so these people continue to come here. It makes it easier. And so this idea that like progressives are going to counter our influence, to me, it doesn't make sense because we're explicitly adding policies that are unappealing to a progressive. So, and there's no incentive. There's no progressive movement to counter our influence in New Hampshire. Progressives aren't going to move to New Hampshire to stop us.
Well, I mean, a lot of the people who work for these organizations moved from other places to come here and are actively,
Sure, but that's a small number of people who have actively been hired to have political influence. That's not like, if you're a progressive in Massachusetts, like what is drawing you to New Hampshire? I don't see there being a draw to New Hampshire. Whereas what we see happening a lot is residents in Massachusetts who are frustrated by Massachusetts gun laws, who are frustrated by Massachusetts taxation, who aren't even necessarily all the way to libertarian. They're moving over the border and living, along the southern border of New Hampshire because New Hampshire has better policy. But we don't see the equivalent effect, on the other side.
And honestly, some of those areas right on the border with Massachusetts are some of the most conservative. Hudson, has like 11 reps, and it always goes solidly red, and we have a lot of free stater reps in that area. So, I agree. I don't think it's necessarily going to attract people. The other side of the coin here is that we need to remember as we implement these things, we sometimes forget to talk about property rights and sort of like how we will, make sure that people, when they're bringing failed policies, don't just, easily implement them. I've certainly been doing this a long time. So, it takes a long time to turn the ship around. I think we've actually worked miracles with the amount of people we have here. But we do want to start talking about things like alternate systems. There's going to be this massive summit on the 18th at Bedford in the Murphys at Bedford, and I think it's rebuild, reopen, folks. But the idea is to really start to get people together so that we can talk in these sort of different groups about things. And one of the things, one of the silos, I guess, was legal, and I was kind of looking at the descriptions, and we might be at a stage where we could start thinking about things like private arbitration and really encouraging people to have New Hampshire centric contracts that are decided here, mediation services, a lot of the stuff that we've started to talk about as libertarians and aren't as necessarily politics focused. And I understand that's what we're talking about because they were talking about because the Dems have their snits. I also want to ask someone, maybe someone knows the answer to this question. If something is a public meeting, are they allowed to exclude you? Isn't that discrimination?
They can call it a public meeting all they want if they privately hosted it and it's not actually a public meeting. There's nothing that prevents you from calling something public when it's not. But it was held privately. They've excluded a bunch of people. I know Bob Robertson on the Odyssey chat right now. He's banned from their meetings forever for speaking up in the past. But there's plenty of people they ban.
Right, but Carlin's video that she, and I encourage everyone to watch this, although start like 30 minutes in when it actually starts. It's already been viewed 4,000 times. they didn't get anywhere near that amount of viewers in state. They probably got 30 or 40 people to tune in and listen to them giving their presentation. So they really are creating marketing for us. This is what echoing what I said earlier, where we put them in a really difficult position. There were a couple of other comments about what it means to be a libertarian, that this is not like, certainly we love Libertarian Party members, but libertarian is someone who just believes in private property and voluntary association. To me, that's what being a libertarian is. And so that doesn't mean you're necessarily a member of the party, although we love party members, but most of there's tons of libertarians that are Republicans. There's even a couple of libertarian Democrats, but maybe that's more strategic. So it's like I don't know if we want to talk about that or either some of the things that Mark Warden's comments or other things.
Well, Mark's comments and the conversation going on in the YouTube chat, especially right now, is a lot about like the different places in New Hampshire and like the diversity of kind of places to live in New Hampshire. And Mark is answering a lot of questions I wanted to bring up, but mostly people asking about walkability of cities, and where we have places like downtown Portsmouth and Manchester, where are very walkable cities where you can live and don't even need a car to really get by every day. I have several friends in Manchester where I live who don't even own a car, and they get by being able to walk to work, walk to the grocery store, and everything is really close.
Yeah, I live in Manchester. I use my car about once a week. Yeah.
But that brings up like one of the bigger clips that I did take from the stream last night. I wanted to bring up, and this shifts more towards away from the politics, away from the electoral stuff, away from the policy stuff, more towards what we as the Free State Project are actually doing, and more towards like what the Free State Project is doing to help people get here, help people like you in the chat who are wondering about where to live, and like how people like Mark are actually stepping up to do that for you, to provide that. And this was the best advertisement I have heard for the Free State Project as a travel and movement agency in a long time.
From the moment someone says, hey, I want to move, they can go on a job board and find jobs. They can say, all right, I found a job, I'm ready to move. And they can go on another board and find a place where they can rent a house that's owned by a Free Stater, or they can buy a house from the realtor that's a Free Stater, or, whatever it looks like, or you can sort of rent a room until you decide what you want to do when you get here. And so, Kermit decides, hey, I'm going to uproot my entire life and I'm going to move to New Hampshire to achieve liberty in my lifetime. So Kermit signed the pledge. He signals, hey, I'm moving. He posts on Facebook, hey, just want to let everyone know I found my job through the postings. I'm moving this weekend. Thank you, Mark Warren, for helping me find a house. And then he says, I'm moving this weekend. The Free Staters, woo! All right, welcome wagon's going to pull on up and we're going to help move you in. And then once you're moved in, as you're moving in, they're going to say, all right, don't you forget, we have a meetup. So come to our meetup. And so this is a way that they've really created a really small community of these folks that have moved here with their ideology. But they've created a community in this mindset of establishing liberty in our lifetime.
I love it. Doesn't it just warm the heart?
The way she says liberty in our lifetime, like it's the worst thing possible. Like the worst thing you could possibly want is liberty in your lifetime. Man, what a drag.
But I especially love in it. Like it was great. And I watched that, and I was watching it in real time on Carlin's stream. Again, Carlin, thank you so much for making that available to us last night. But I just died. It was like, this is everything that we've wanted to promote that we're doing, and like you could not have I don't think it could have been framed better. Mark Warden got free advertising out of it. If you're looking for a home, you should reach out to Mark Warden. He's in the chat. Get him your information. If you're looking for jobs, we have the Free State Project jobs group where people are posting openings constantly.
Yep, FSP job alert.
Yeah.
I posted some links if we can share these somehow. But there are Facebook groups for all of these things. There's also a general purpose Facebook group. There's a LinkedIn group for jobs. Come into these groups, introduce yourselves. People are friendly. We're like libertarian Mormons. I get in trouble saying that sometimes, but in the sense that like we're very warm and welcoming and friendly. We want you to join, to get involved. And so it's not, like just come and post a short message about who you are, what you're looking for, what you're curious about. This is entirely true. We are here to help you, and it's a big part of what we do. And it's the kind of like pass it forward thing. I remember when I was making my moving journey 6 years ago, and people were like so friendly to me. People would answer all of my questions. People came and helped me move into my house. People I didn't even know. And part of being human is that desire to pass it forward, And so now I desire to do the same thing for others. And so there are thousands of people who feel that way, who feel like some other people helped them and they want to help you. And so definitely like do that. It's the number one thing other than making a visit, because then you can do it in person, but like make a visit, come into some of the groups and just introduce yourself. And you don't have to be bought in. You can just say, hey, I'm curious. What's the job scene like for people who are civil engineers? Or what's the job scene like for people who are nurses or school teachers or whatever it might be? Like there was a school teacher recently in New Jersey. She's like, I'm libertarian leaning. I'm in New Jersey. I'm fed up. And, we found 3 different schools in New Hampshire that were libertarian friendly where she could potentially get a job. And that's the kind of thing that people are like lined up and enthusiastic about doing to help you out. It's entirely true.
It really it warms my heart seeing that clip because like I didn't, I grew up here. I didn't know about any of this until the beginning of the year. And then, I thought I was alone out here. I mean, I kind of knew the people who were liberty leaning or whatever, but I didn't know about the Free State Project because so much of it is word of mouth. And now it's like the word of mouth thing since COVID has, I guess, gotten out of hand to the point where the Democrats have to like blast our word of mouth message through their propaganda megaphone, but they don't have any bad ads besides what we say. Like there's nothing. It's literally they hate our message so much they just have to repeat it and then it gets heard by more people.
Yeah, it's a thing of beauty. I can just keep encouraging them. I will learn a better style of trolling, hopefully. So I did see a comment come in from, I think it was Constance, who also works with Mark Warden she said that there was a webinar tonight with Porcupine Real Estate and over 30 people joined the webinar tonight. So I guess we should be ramping up for a massive January, February new movers.
And if you guys are looking for that webinar, I did save it to a playlist on this page, the Free State Project page called Get Ready to Make Your Move is a playlist about things to look for when you're moving to New Hampshire and advice from realtors. And I did save Porcupine Real Estate's webinar to that playlist. So you guys can go find it over on their channel right through that playlist.
Awesome. And did you post the job links as well?
They're in the chat here and they'll be going up on the YouTube as soon as this show is over.
Okay, so again, we are trying to help connect people to find jobs. So definitely join those groups as well. I saw a comment drop in as well where apparently the Granite State Progress openly admits that they have, sleeper agents in all our groups, monitoring how awfully we help people find jobs and find a beautiful home and move to the most beautiful state in America to come fight for the best future we could possibly build. We must be the most horrible people on earth.
It's great.
I wonder if that's like free staters who are like, yeah, we're totally free. We're definitely sleeper agents for you. Yeah, we're just like we're here, and it's actually their double agents.
They don't even know about our counter sleeper agents. We have sleeper. They don't know half of Granite State Progress is also free staters. Make sure to cover this in your next presentation because we have sleeper.
They don't know about any of those packs, Jeremy. They don't know about any of those packs. They're not tracking that money. Don't let the cat out of the bag. Come on now.
Zandra, it would actually, some of their behavior, it would be more believable if like Zandra Rice Hawkins, whatever, if she was actually a free stater, that'd be more believable given some of their behavior than that she's actually a Soros plant, which I believe is the truth. But the way that they advertise us, I, as a free stater who's trying to market the movement, I'm like, this is incredible. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing. It's greatly appreciated.
And really, I'm not being entirely facetious when I said the archivist thing. I went through some they made a candidate book. I think it was either 2 or 4 years ago that was so comprehensive. They missed a few people, but I found 2 free staters I didn't know about. And I was like, this was fantastic research, and I appreciate and applaud your efforts.
I agree. I didn't know about some of the organizations that they listed. I was like, oh, these organizations are free state friendly. I was like, I should follow these guys. I should pay attention to what they're doing. I mean, they're really doing a great job for us because they think that it's this massive top-down thing when it's not. And that's the thing that it's so hard for them to get their heads around because they've never been a part of something that's genuine. Right, it's all these people doing it genuinely who just came here doing it genuinely, and so this idea that like the Free State Project doesn't even know, we don't know. We're just someone does something, we try to talk about it and get more people here, but it's this bottom up.
So Dennis Pratt in the chat. Dennis Pratt in the chat on Odyssey, which I still can't pull up to put on screen for you guys. I apologize, but we're working on it. Is saying they really should have stressed a lot more, all of the social discussion and community groups we've created. And I think that's one of the biggest selling points of the Free State Project in my mind, is that when you move, when you land, after Chris Lopez organizes a welcome wagon of people to come help you unpack and move into your new home, you do immediately get invited to a meetup or to hang out with your new neighbors and your new friends, and you're integrated immediately into one of the most welcoming communities in the world.
It's true.
Yeah. So another thought I just had was they could, of course, be trying to tie us to other organizations that aren't as closely aligned as we may think, right? In a desperate attempt to try and get those organizations to try and distance themselves from us. But following the logic of there ain't no such thing as bad news. There is, we have proven it time and time again. But that being said, that's also interesting because that's also going to backfire because now they're making other organizations talk about the Free State Project and liberty in New Hampshire as well, which is also us winning. So I think it's great. I would love to have them be more fair about it, like not kick us out. Why can't we sit in? I mean, I literally have been kicked out of those meetings. They won't let me in anymore. And that to me is a bit of a tell that they're not fair brokers and they're not honest brokers. And I think that, certainly people who are watching this and who are just genuinely trying to get information, maybe they're free, they're just ordinary Granite staters who are like, I'm hearing the craziest things. On the one hand, I'm hearing this, and on the other hand, I'm hearing this. What's the truth, right? And so, I mean, the truth is we welcome those people to talk to us. We will talk to anyone about our ideas, and they are trying to spread one narrative and then exclude people who can maybe like round things out and help them better understand stuff. So, if you are kind of looking at which side's honest brokers, I think, we win on that tick box.
I think that's something we can keep pushing them on. They're absolutely terrified of having any kind of open conversation or debate against us, and we should keep pushing them on that. I want to amplify something that Justin just said about the community aspect, because I know for me moving, that was one of the biggest things that I felt after moving, and I didn't even appreciate it before I moved, where I realized that I was spending this incredible amount of time in my life, in my social life, where I was constantly guarding myself. And I tried pretty hard to be an honest person, so I was never like holding back entirely, but I was like carefully, molding my words and being very careful to say things in a way to represent a libertarian position that was still like somehow socially acceptable. And here, all of a sudden, I found myself in this peer group where I could just be completely myself. I didn't have to hold back, and I could just like be unequivocal about what I actually believed. And I found there to be a huge psychological release in that, where there was this like stress that was on me that I wasn't even like aware wholly that it was on me. But then once it was gone, it was like, oh my God, that's gone. And the Free State Project, tweeted recently that like, libertarians hate masks, but then they spend their whole life wearing one. And I think that that's kind of true. A lot of libertarians in their current life where they live, they have to hide who they are and what they believe. And I understand why they do that. So I'm not trying to shame them. But that same relief that you feel when you don't have to wear your physical mask, there's the same relief when you don't have to wear the psychological one and you don't have to hide who you are anymore. And separating from all the policy and all the stuff about what we're achieving and all the politics and all this stuff, that like, even if you don't care about that, the relief of being around people who share your values, I feel so much more, sort of psychologically healthy, than I did before coming here.
Yeah, it's cool. So I hate always bringing up that I grew up here, but I was in the neighborhood I grew up in the other day.
You're the lucky one.
Like, yeah, but I was over there. I was on the west side of Manchester, and I'm driving around, and I stop at a convenience store I've gone to 1,000 times, and I look over, and there's a place. It's like I didn't know this place existed. It's called like the Free State Barbell Club or something. They've got a big old ANCAP flag in the window. It's got to be Free Stater owned. I didn't know it was there. It's been there for apparently like over a year. I
met the owner at PorkFest. He's a great guy, and he's opened that gym right on the west side of Manchester. There's a handful of people that you even know in West Manchester who are members now.
But it's just so wild that it's such a grassroots organization, and I bet that it would be great talking points if they could say their pockets are so deep they're starting small businesses all over the state, But how do you do that? What company or organization do you know that like can spontaneously get like lifting clubs up and like real estate companies and little like just like private clubs and all the different things that we have going on here? What company do you do? Or get moving parties or people enthusiastic like, come on in, what are you into? You into guns? You into crypto? What do you like? Like let's hang out and figure it out.
Yeah, that's the thing. Amazing. We did very little. It's other people who did all of it. And as we continue to grow the show, we'll diversify it. I think we'll try to get some of these people on. And because we're going to be doing this every week for years, so we're going to have to do a bunch of different episodes. And we'll try to do episodes and bring some of these different people on. But it really is like it's the efforts of individuals. It's that libertarian ethos of like I as an individual can make a difference. I can help solve this problem. It's not this top-down directed thing. It's people coming in and realizing how they as an individual can make a difference and can help move things forward. And it's part of what's so beautiful about it.
Dimitri on YouTube does say, I hope to go to New Hampshire in the future. However, I want to stay in Maine for now, save up money, and help my local libertarians turn Maine into another stronghold for liberty. There was a point made by a YouTuber not too long ago that maybe the Free State Project made the mistake of picking a single state instead of a region like Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, instead of just New Hampshire, because of how culturally similar we all are and how close we are. I don't think Maine's a bad bet to turn into one long term. And it's the most important part about moving is moving when it's right for you and your family. But in the meantime, you can definitely come visit. We've got Liberty Forum coming up in March. You can go get your tickets at nhlibertyforum.com and come visit and check things out. And that might speed up your timetable of when you think is right to move for you.
And also for someone who's in Maine, come learn, come teach us what's working in Maine. Like we want to have those conversations with libertarians, but we also, Maine is in the 10-year plan because we need some more coastline eventually. So, and more land, right? So, there's nothing wrong with seating a libertarian, so someone said focus on one state, move to the next, right? So, but we are here. If there's someone in Maine who's like, well, I'm probably never going to move. What we do want you to do is to come interact with us so that you can take the things that are working and go replicate them, at least there. And in Maine, it could work. It's not going to work in probably 48 other states, right? They're too big. They're geographically too big, whatever. But Maine does fall with us in terms of at least what I see a long-term plan could be for an Arcadia, a sort of, a nice regional trade zone that is a lot more independent.
Yeah, I'm never one to push back too hard against someone's ambitions. So I like it. I would love it if it happens. But it's putting the cart behind the horse. And like, we have some great momentum here, but like, we've accomplished 1/10, if that, of what we want to accomplish. And so this idea that we can kind of like, rest on our laurels, or that we're coasting, or this kind of thing, I just think it's premature. And so, the number one way that we can accelerate all this, even if you are literally in Maine and want Maine to ultimately become a free state too, it would still make sense to come to New Hampshire, because we need to really accelerate New Hampshire, because that's the way that we win. And I agree that a free New Hampshire could lead to a free Maine. I would not dispute that claim, but like, I just think it's projecting a bit too far out, where we still really need to win this here. And I get that attitude of like not wanting to give up on your state, or not wanting to feel like, oh, well, I want to win here, or et cetera. And I respect that attitude, because it's the kind of like fighting attitude that I want to see in people. But I think like at the same time, you have to be realistic. Like, it's great to be a fighter, but it's also like not great to be someone who's like fighting an unwinnable battle. And I think like that's something that the last year really should have laid to rest. This idea that there will be this national libertarian moment, or there's something that's going to come. It's just not going to happen. We are the minority, and that can be uncomfortable to acknowledge. But libertarians are the minority, arguably a substantial minority. But there's nothing wrong with that. We still deserve to be able to live according to our values. We're people who have rights. We deserve to be able to live in accordance how we want to live. And we can achieve that if we concentrate. So you're not like quitting or giving up if you move away from your state to join the winning team. You're being realistic, and you're not fighting this quixotic battle and saying, oh, I'm going to make California libertarian. It's just not going to happen. It's never going to happen. Literally never. And so, it's not, getting in a lifeboat when your ship is sinking is not giving up on your boat, So I just think that's an important perspective to keep in mind.
It is giving up on your boat, but sometimes you need a better boat. That's the reality of it. And sometimes like a bigger boat is not necessarily a better boat. Like New Hampshire is smaller. I think people, even when you think like Texas is going to be like they're about to elect Matthew McConaughey or something, like some movie star. Like, even Texas is not built to last as far as freedom goes. Like, I give them 4 more years of looking like they might be liberty friendly.
Right.
And then they'll start taking away people's guns.
Didn't Ted Cruz say today or yesterday that he's now talking about states' rights and independence and possible secession, and he said that Texas is a thing now, and Joe Rogan is going to be president of Texas.
But in the same speech, he's talking about how Texas wants to keep NASA and wants to regulate big tech. Like, an independent Texas would not be a libertarian state.
Oh no, it would suck. Of course.
These people, like Texas and Florida, I'm not saying that they're not better states than average. They are, but they are states where you're talking about like conservative or Republican states. They're not libertarian states. And a libertarian coming to New Hampshire versus Texas or Florida, you're talking about having 20 or 30 times the impact that you'd have on those states. I would love to see an independent Texas. I would love to see an independent Florida. But these would not be libertarian places. They wouldn't be. DeSantis just oversaw a raising of the minimum wage and red flag laws. Like, these are, they were good on COVID, and that's it. Otherwise, you're going to see the same kind of statism and authoritarianism, but it's just going to be a different flavor of it. That's how it plays out.
Well, this has been a great conversation tonight. Super fun, as always, as to be expected. We're coming up on our hour.
Oh, thank God. Can I go to bed?
Final reminder, everybody, if you're not in New Hampshire, if you're thinking about moving but not sure yet, a great time to visit is the first weekend of March for New Hampshire Liberty Forum. It's going to be awesome. Go check out nhlibertyforum.com, get your tickets, and get ready to come visit us. And we'll show you the state. We'll show you the clubhouses. We'll show you all the great people in the great community. And we will be lining up to help you unpack when you do make your move. And follow the Free State Project on Twitter at FreeStateNH, as well as hitting that subscribe button right here on YouTube. Make sure you hit the follow button on Odyssey and look up where you're looking, where you can follow us on your favorite podcatchers. We're on Spotify already, still waiting on iTunes to approve it and get it out to the rest of them. But Carla, where can everybody follow you?
Oh God, just Google my name and go to the third page. No, seriously. You can find me at Twitter, Carla Garrick. You can find, I blog almost daily at carlagarrick.com. I put all my other media and shows up there, so that's a good place to go. And I'm pretty active on Facebook on my personal public account. So Carla Garrick.
And Jeremy, where can everybody follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at my full name. Justin's got it on the screen there, Jeremy Kaufman, or you can follow me on Odyssey at KAUFFJ.
And Bill.
You can follow me right there on the Twitter handle, and also just follow like the Libertarian Party at Mises Caucus, New Hampshire, and the LPNH, and get Liberty Forum tickets. I do all the graphics for all those people. So
LP event this Friday for the people nearby. Plug that one quickly.
Yep.
So we got V for Vendetta on Friday. I think it's private screening at Chunky's if you're in the Manchester area. So get in touch with the LPNH. You can message them anywhere. Just look up LPNH.
They respond on Twitter.
Yeah, they respond.
You can follow me on Twitter at O'Donnell4NH and check out my other shows and my other podcasts that I do help produce. But it's been great. It's been real. Thank you, everybody, for coming in on YouTube and Odyssey and Facebook and joining our discussion. And make sure when this is done, you leave a comment on the video, not in the live chat, but leave a comment on the video and tell us what you want us to talk about next week. What things do you want to hear about helping your move to New Hampshire next week? And until next time, be free.
Peace out, guys.